This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. I'm Sophie Ikenye. Our top stories. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is sworn in for a second term, once again promising to tackle corruption and insecurity. Eritrea is removed from a US blacklist of nations accused of not cooperating fully on counter-terror efforts. Also in the program, sharing on the go. We meet young Senegalese handing out Ramadan meals to people stuck in traffic at the break of fast.
There are no barriers like religion, culture or gender.
And in sports, Benin's most capped player and captain Stéphane Sessegnon is called up for his third Africa Cup of Nations appearance. Thanks for joining us on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Muhammadu Buhari has been sworn in for a second term as President of Nigeria at a ceremony in the capital, Abuja. Now, the inauguration comes 3 months after the former army general was re-elected back in February. He defeated his closest rival, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, by nearly 4 million votes. Well, the BBC's Ishaq Khalid went to the ceremony and sent this report.
This is the first time in the history of Nigeria that a president has been sworn in without delivering any speech. The government says he's going to deliver his speech on June 12th. That's the new date Nigeria set aside as Democracy Day. When he was sworn in at this particular arena in 2015, 4 years ago, the crowd was much larger than what we've seen today. And the excitement, the hope, and the expectations were very high. But these are no more. And the challenges he promised to tackle 4 years ago are still alive. Insecurity is rife in the country. The Boko Haram insurgency is still going on, though the government has made some progress against the insurgents. But there is also a worsening kidnapping situation across the country, particularly in the northwest of the country. And there is also the issue of economy. The economy is very slow in growth. So the president has a lot of challenges in his second term.
We want new people to come and manage. We want more women. Women are not in his government and we are not happy. But we have been supporting him since from inception. We want him to recognize us. We are vital elements in the process of government. We are vital elements in decision making. God will assist him. God will see him through. We can see the zeal he has.
My great expectation is that the president will continue in the fight against corruption that he has started. Because this country, the only problem we have in this country is corruption. If government can be able, as he started fighting it, my great expectation is that the president should not listen to those people who are playing game with him. They should face it as he started.
Corruption is still endemic in the country, but the president himself has acknowledged that the progress made in tackling corruption is not enough. So he is going to face that again in his second term.
Well, Ishaq Khalid has mentioned some of the challenges that Nigeria still has to overcome. Now, unemployment figures, according to government figures, are around 23%. Now, in the last 2 years, the country's economy grew by only 2%, and analysts say it has to grow by at least 6% to effectively deal with the issue of unemployment. Mayeni Jones sent us this report.
Rivers is one of Nigeria's biggest oil-producing states. But that wealth is not trickling down. Every day, unemployed men come to this junction in the state's capital, Port Harcourt, looking for work. Most days, they're disappointed.
Sometimes, in 1 week, you might go one walk. And that one walk, the money will not be affordable. Now, my mother is getting old, then my father is getting old. I am their responsibility to take good care of them. If I don't have money, they will die and leave me.
Since this month, it's only once they called me for work. I can't tell a lie. I have children going to schools. No money to pay for school fees. Even this month, one asked me for money, transport. I don't have it. She was crying.
Many turn to agriculture, the state's main employer. But even those who manage to get a place on one of the government's few training schemes worry about their ability to get work afterwards.
It's hard because all of us went to school hoping that tomorrow we'll be somewhere working any money to make our family proud. You know, at the end of the day, you will not find anything. You will find yourself staying at home, doing nothing. So it feels so bad and sad.
Some of my friends I have that we finished school but we are not unable to get job. I see them on the street.
Port Harcourt's struggle with unemployment is shared across the country. Despite President Buhari's re-election, voter turnout was low. Many are disaffected with the president's inability to provide adequate employment for Nigeria's booming population, which will see many more young people searching desperately for work. Analysts say the key issue is the country's failure to diversify its economy.
We rely just on oil, and even in the oil sector, there is no value added much. So you see, that kind of economy cannot grow and cannot generate employment.
In the last 2 years, Nigeria's economy has only grown by 2%. But analysts say it will need to increase by at least 6% every year to reduce youth unemployment. The government now faces an uphill struggle to contain a crisis which will only continue to grow.
Mayeni Jones reporting there. Let's now take a quick look at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. Supporters of Angola's main opposition party, UNITA, are at loggerheads with the government over the whereabouts of the body of their former leader, Jonas Savimbi. Now, the government was due to hand over the former rebel leader's body to UNITA representatives so that he can be reburied in his hometown on June the 1st. But the handover did not happen, and both sides are now blaming each other. A high court in Kenya has lifted a ban on betting and gambling adverts appearing on billboards. A judge said the directive by Kenya's betting control agency that banned the adverts last month was unlawful. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa will announce his new cabinet on Wednesday evening, 2 weeks after his ruling ANC won the elections with a reduced majority. Now, President Ramaphosa has vowed to tackle corruption and rejuvenate the struggling economy. He's expected to announce a smaller cabinet. And in the US, the special counsel Robert Mueller has made his first public statement on his investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. He said that charging the president for a federal crime was not an option because of the Constitution. He also said that if the president had done nothing to obstruct justice, he would have said so in his report. The United States has removed Eritrea from the list of countries that are deemed not to be cooperating fully with its counter-terror efforts. Now, still listed on the U.S. announcement are Iran, North Korea, Syria and Venezuela. Now, the diplomatic breakthrough follows the United Nations Security Council lifting sanctions on Eritrea late last year. Emmanuel Igunza has more.
November 2018. The UN Security Council unanimously agrees to lift a wide range of sanctions against Eritrea. It was a major triumph for a country that had since 2009 fought against an arms embargo, travel bans and asset freezes aimed at some Eritrean officials and businessmen accused of supporting the Al-Shabaab militant group. But after 9 years, the Security Council said there was no proof after all to back the claims.
The Eritreans will not look backwards and are not resentful. While mindful of the historical lessons of the past 2 decades, they are determined to create a peaceful and prosperous nation that is worthy of the sacrifice made for over 7 decades to build a harmonious, peaceful, and confident country.
The journey to this point began 4 months earlier when Eritrea, neighboring Ethiopia, signed a landmark peace deal ending 2 decades of a border dispute. With rivalries ended, borders between the two countries were reopened. Trade and travel became possible again. And now the US has become the latest country to revert earlier positions on Eritrea. In May 2017, the US State Department added Eritrea to a blacklist of countries not supporting its counterterrorism efforts. It based its decision on UN sanctions that claimed Eritrea was supporting terrorist groups aimed at destabilizing the Horn of Africa region. Eritrea has blamed the sanctions for playing a big part in hurting its economy. Years of war have further compounded the situation for millions who depend on farming and small-scale businesses for survival. Eritrea has even asked for compensation for the effects of the sanctions. This latest move by the US will no doubt vindicate further its position that it was unfairly targeted. But with peace now made with its neighbors, this could well be the beginning of Eritrea coming out of the cold. Emmanuel Gunza, BBC News, Nairobi.
Now, Africa's Continental Free Trade Agreement comes into effect at midnight tonight. So far, 23 countries have ratified the agreement out of 54, including Nigeria, that's Africa's largest economy. Now, the agreement is aimed at creating a single market for goods and services with free movement of people, similar to the European Union. Now, according to the African Union, it will be the largest free trade area since the formation of the World Trade Organization. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Still to come, we look ahead to the Europa League final as two London teams go head-to-head in Baku. Kickoff is in just over an hour. I'm Sophie Ikenye and you're watching Focus on Africa from BBC World News. The top story on this program: Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is sworn in for a second term. The inauguration comes 3 months after the former army general was re-elected back in February. And let's stay with that story because when the president was sworn in today, but when you look across the country, fewer women took the oath of office for any elective position than did 4 years ago. And that's because only a handful were elected into office this time. The BBC's Yemisi Adeguke sat down with 3 women who were candidates in the last elections to find out what their experience was like.
When you declared that you were running, how did people react? You're laughing.
People had mixed feelings. For me, because they were like, you're young, you're new week, you just got out of school, and all of that. Why are you sure you want to run or you just want to make a name? So people didn't get to take it serious until they saw actually that I was running, seeing my posters and the works I was doing in the society.
So the first question was, what party? And I mentioned the name of my party. Like, are you serious? Can you get a ticket? So by the time the orders of the primaries was over and that emerged, and that was when a lot of people started taking me very seriously.
Running against my uncle, they felt I was too daring. I've always been, daring, but then they felt like this was like the highest of it all. It was challenging. It was challenging.
So what are some of the challenges that you
Challenges, violence, intimidation. I faced a lot of intimidation because I ran in the constituency that I was the first woman to ever pick the party's ticket in a major party.
It wasn't a challenge for me, it was a challenge for my opponents because they felt I was young, I was female. Why would I want to challenge? What right do I have? Like, why do I have the guts to face them? So I faced a whole lot of sexism.
I faced a lot of harassment, especially from men who would promise that, okay, well, I could settle this for you because I believe in you. And at some point, they're looking for something in exchange. And, I had to say no to a lot of that.
So when you say harassment, you mean sexual harassment?
Yes, sexual harassment.
Do you think that there's hesitation from women to get involved because of those things?
Everything is a process. Until we can accept that we're going to face this, but we're going to still stand.
Are you guys planning to run again, or are you done?
Definitely. I'm running again this year. I'm not waiting till 2023. This year we're getting back.
What do you think that this new government can do to help increase or improve the amount of female representation across the board?
I think the policy that's already on ground, implementing them, and then those bills that are yet to be passed, the Ninth Assembly should do it as soon as possible. We need those laws being domesticated in a society. We don't just want them to make laws that are not effective.
Now, how do you design a modern city? In a fast-changing world, growing populations are piling pressure on governments, limited resources, spaces, and opportunities. But now the United Nations is collaborating with Ericsson, that's a Swedish company, and East African tech innovators to develop new apps to revolutionize urban planning. It makes the job easier for architects. BBC's Zawadi Mudibo explains how.
This is the first session of the UN Habitat Assembly here in Nairobi, and sustainable urbanization is a key topic. But then how do you discuss future planning without technology? Almost impossible. So this is a prototype of a city plan. This is Stockholm in Sweden, developed by a Swedish company, but this is something you can use all over the world. You begin to look at it as just a sketch, but when you look at it through this context, then you begin to understand the concept of augmented reality. You can see this building at the center of the city. You can look at the city from above. This is an aerial view. You can look at how these cars are moving, the names of the cities. Now let's go to this building and look at it in isolation. We have it at the corner. This is quite a number of stories. You can look at it from this angle. You can go to the rooftop and you view the entire city from this particular section. If you want to go in, quite simple, you can just do that. You can walk in, that is the floor. So I want to introduce us to this gentleman. His name is Glorious Princely. Glorious, what is the importance of such technology in modern day society?
So this technology enhances citizen participation in the design of the urban places that they live. Whereas in the past, architects and city planners would work in isolation, they can now involve citizens in decision making for urban design.
Are you collaborating with African nations or governments or even companies to be able to take up this technology to implement it in real life?
We have had interest, particular interest in Tanzania, where we're from, about using this technology in exactly that, civic participation in urban design.
So what other forms of technology do you use or propose to use towards urban planning?
So there's a variety of technology that you can use, including virtual reality. Now, virtual reality is a simulation that immerses the viewer inside the video itself.
Wow, so let me try this and see. Wow, so I wish I was right here, right now. Wow. But what you do, that is what technology does for you.
You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. Let's find out what's happening in the world of sport, Peter.
Lots of football. Let's start now. Many thanks, Sophie. Now, Benin's most capped player and captain, Stéphane Sessegnon, is set to make his third Africa Cup of Nations appearance. The 35-year-old has been included in the Squirrels' 23-man squad for the tournament in Egypt. However, the midfielder, who plays in Turkey, will be suspended for Benin's opening Group F game on the 25th of June against Ghana. He misses the match after an accumulation of yellow cards in the qualifying campaign. Sessegnon also played for Sunderland, West Bromwich Albion, Paris Saint-Germain and Montpellier. Now, congratulations of sorts are in order for former Burkina Faso striker Aristide Bons, who has joined his 22nd club in his nomadic career. The 34-year-old has signed for Horoya in Guinea as a free agent on a 2-year deal after his short-term contract with Burkina Faso's Sports United Armed Forces came to an end. As well as playing in Burkina Faso, the striker has played in Egypt, Ivory Coast, Belgium, the UAE, Latvia, Finland, Qatar, Ukraine, South Africa, Germany, Turkey and Kazakhstan. Now, in just over an hour, a London derby will kick off in a city over 4,000 kilometers away in Baku, Azerbaijan, when Premier League rivals Chelsea and Arsenal take on each other in the final of this year's Europa League. There is speculation that win or lose in Baku's Olympic Stadium, it could be the Blues boss Maurizio Sarri's final game in charge. He refused to discuss reports linking him with Italian side Juventus on the eve of the final, saying, "I have a contract with Chelsea for 2 years." Midfielder N'Golo Kante is only 50-50 to play in tonight's game due to a knee injury. Arsenal manager Unai Emery insists ending the Gunners' 25-year wait for a European title is his first objective in Azerbaijan. That's despite the game also being his side's last chance of making it to next season's Champions League after a 2-year absence. Qualification is likely to significantly increase their summer transfer funds, and Nigeria midfielder Alex Iwobi says that's on the players' mind.
We've been talking about it. It's the only way we can get to the Champions League right now, so it's also a way to win something and win a trophy. So we are very excited for the opportunity, and hopefully we go and grab it.
Well, much has been said about the difficulty both sets of fans faced in getting to this game. The BBC's David Ornstein is in Baku.
3,000 miles away on the edge of Asia lies Baku,
an unlikely venue for a London derby. The cost and complication has denied many the chance to be here. Those who are have stories to tell.
So I've travelled from Barrow-in-Furness. I'm probably the only person from there here today. It's taken me probably the best part of 30 hours, car, 3 flights, big long layovers. But now that we're here, we're just happy and looking forward to the final.
Any team that got here, it would have been difficult, especially with the fans being able to travel. Logistically, it's a nightmare.
Not in attendance is the Arsenal player Henrik Mkhitaryan, who decided he didn't feel safe enough because of political tension between his country Armenia and hosts Azerbaijan. Even his name, it seems, is attracting the wrong kind of attention.
And finally, cricket and the World Cup begins here in England tomorrow. The opening match sees South Africa take on England. South Africa have suffered plenty of World Cup heartache, but having been losing semi-finalists 4 years ago, there is a sense that the Proteas are going under the radar this time around. Coach Otis Gibson is convinced the pressure is all on the tournament host. South Africa, captained by Faf du Plessis, are without retired star batsman Abi de Villiers, but their top order includes the talented Quinton de Kock.
The 10 teams play each other in a round-robin format before the top 4 contest semi-finals. 11 grounds will stage 48 matches across 6.5 weeks of action, and 830,000 tickets have been sold.
6 matches will be played here at Old Trafford, including the eagerly anticipated match between arch-rivals India and Pakistan, for which there have been a remarkable 800,000 ticket applications. And even though Lancashire have built this 8,000-seater temporary stand, this place could have been sold out for that game 32 times over.
2 years ago, England won the Women's World Cup. Now the men are favourites to emulate them, their bold style of play making them the world's top-ranked one-day team.
That's all on the sports, and I'm off to watch that wonderful final.
I know who you support, so I'm not going to say it out loud.
Okay.
Now, it's customary during Ramadan for Muslims to invite one another or gather for a meal at the end of the day when the fast ends. But a group of young Senegalese are going the extra mile. They make snacks, coffee and tea and share with those who are stuck in traffic and unable to get home in time to break their fast. The BBC's Alassane Dia in Dakar has more.
When we share Ramadan food, we please people and we please ourselves. My name is Amadou Sakir Diop. I am Senegalese and a co-founder of Help Yourself.
Help Yourself is a group of young Senegalese sharing free snacks.
We came up with the idea during discussions with friends. It was very difficult at the start, so we started going from door to door, asking neighbors to contribute as 1,000 or 2,000 sefa. People therefore started to contribute sugar or dates, and they are happy doing it.
The group distributes the food to people who are on the road and who cannot reach their homes before the time to break their fast.
There are no barriers like religion, culture or gender. In 2012 we distributed around 300 ndogu, but today we want to distribute 40,000. It is a source of pride for us, and we do not intend to stop there.
Young Senegalese there. But before we go, let's take a quick look again at our top story on Focus on Africa. Muhammadu Buhari has been sworn in for a second term as president of Nigeria at a ceremony in the capital, Abuja. The inauguration comes 3 months after the former army general was re-elected back in February. That's Focus on Africa for now. Thanks for your company.